Hey guys, and welcome back to another Warframe video. Today I wanted to talk about the Fulmin. I was going to do a normal voiced and scripted review, but I decided I just want to talk about the weapon instead and showcase it in the simulacrum, because it's a little bit complicated. Unfortunately, I thought I would like it a lot more than I did. I guess maybe that's why I don't really want to do a full review, because it's slightly disappointing. It's not a bad weapon, don't get me wrong, but it's just not what I expected. But it does work very well if you can take advantage of some frames and some synergies. So obviously right off the bat, here's the first build, and I've done this many times with Viral. I've tried just pure corrosive with maybe some heat. I've tried Viral Hunter Munitions with the Bane mod, and while the procs are good with Prime Bane of Grineer, the status chance is a little inconsistent sometimes, and I don't know, there's just something about it. It's like, it can hit multiple targets. So you can see right here, it's almost like an Arcaplasmor, kind of, but it has a little bit less range, and the actual area of effect of that shot is low. The coolest thing about it is when you press your alt fire, you take off the choke or whatever, and now it becomes a longer range. I can actually probably hit the enemies over there. It becomes a longer range automatic rifle, and normally this mode is actually worse, but against Grineer, when you can remove their armor, this is actually just as good as the main fire, which I really enjoy because that means it actually has a use. So that's the reason why I'm using Nyx, is so I can remove armor. But for this first test with this first build, I'm not going to remove armor because I'm going to see how long it takes to kill the enemies with corrosive. So I've already spawned the enemies here, and I'm just going to try to see how long it takes. So as you can see with this main fire, each shot takes 10, and then you can see I got some 3,000s and occasionally a 4,000, I think. But as you can see, it still takes a little long, but that corrosive helps because when I get that proc, the actual next shot does more damage, and it's actually very good against the heavy gunner. Like I said, I've tried Viral, and you get the same procs, but half health, but it's a little bit less consistent, I found, so I decided to go with this. It still takes a little while, but this takes 10 shots, and then if I switch to the alternate fire, the enemy's already dead, but you can see it's a little bit faster, and it helps with the status, but unfortunately the status chance is actually lower. For whatever reason, the status chance is lower on the automatic mode. Normally you have a higher status automatic and then a higher crit single fire, but it's kind of like the opposite on this weapon for some reason. So you saw, those were level 160s to be fair, so you're not really going to expect that kind of level enemy. And in fact, I'm actually going to lower it to 100. So level 100 enemies are what you're going to normally encounter in like Kuva Floods, normal missions. As you can see, the auto fire does pretty good against the heavy gunner. And then against the napalm, gotta let it recharge. That's the good thing about this, doesn't use ammo. See, it's actually not that, not that bad with the automatic fire. Then we switch to the normal fire. Only takes about 3 shots, sometimes 4 to kill a heavy gunner. But as you can see, it's still taking a little long for these napalms, but it's usable. It's not great, but it's usable. Like something like the Arcaplasmor, I'm going to be comparing it to the Arcaplasmor lock because it's very similar. But with the Arcaplasmor, I'd be able to hit this entire line because it has a wider spread, but it does do less damage. So with this build here, you can see I've switched to Viral and Electricity, and obviously if I added one more Forma, a D Polarity, which I wouldn't really want to do, or 2 dashes or something, or 2 V's and a dash or something, I could put Prime Cryo rounds for even more Viral, then it would one-shot level 160 Grineer. It almost does currently if I remove armor. And like I said, that's why I'm using Nyx. Here's my Nyx build if you're interested. With this, not this build, Party Pooper, because you can't have enemies running around with armor. So with this, the Psychic Bolts removes 100% of their armor, and it lasts 13 seconds, which is very acceptable. Now there's other ways you can remove armor. Obviously Corrosive Projection is a option. You can use Ash with his augment for his 1, and you can use Banshee for her augment with her 1, but both of those are kind of inconsistent. With Banshees, you just tap it and they're all, you know, ready to go. This usually one-shots them. It doesn't always, but it will usually one-shot them with this build at level 100. Now, if I pump up the level to max I currently can, which is 160, again, this is level enemies that you're not normally going to fight, but it gives you a good idea of the power of the weapon. So you can see it takes about 2 shots each. Sometimes if I get lucky with an enhanced crit, it'll actually kill him quicker. Tap it again. This is why I really like Nyx. And then compared to, like, say, Banshee or Ash, I can use my Chaos to make enemies confused. I can mind control one and then use this to pump up damage. So I can have an ally that does a crap ton of damage against a lot of targets to distract them, and etc. So as you can see, when armor is removed, this is actually pretty good, but I actually should show the normal fire. Now this is where it gets interesting. You notice how long it took to heal this group of enemies. Now I'm going to switch to the automatic fire mode, and as you can see, it does crazy damage still. It's actually killing faster than the normal fire, which is actually pretty cool. You see here, doing 8,000s of damage. That's pretty crazy. And then it uses a lot less ammo. So if you remove the armor of enemies, this is actually more efficient, which is kind of funny. So now this is where the weapon, like, normally is good, and against Corpus. I mean, gas builds are usually very effective against Corpus anyways. But we have 2 dual stats for gas. We have Vigilante Armaments because we want to try to pump up that multi-shot as much as possible. We want to try for 3 shots. The 5% chance to enhance critical hits from primary weapons isn't necessary, but it does help. And then the Bane of Corpus will triple dip the gas procs. It's very necessary. And as per usual for these kinds of tests, I'm testing against level 160 Eximus. Now Eximus is important because normal Corpus are very weak anyway. But most of these Eximus enemies will actually resist even toxin damage a little bit. So it's actually a good indicator. Now we didn't get a gas proc there, unfortunately. There we got one. So we see a 19,000 and a 17,000 on this guy. Let's just pump a few just to stack them. As you can see, it's not too bad. It's about equal to the Grineer test without armor, which is what you kind of expect, because Grineer generally have a little bit less health or less resistances. So let's test that again with the normal automatic fire. Now this usually doesn't do as well, but I'll try anyway. Yeah, see, because we actually have less status chance on this automatic fire, but we do get more procs per second. But as you can see, it doesn't really help. It's not that great. I'm actually going to switch back to the normal fire and see if I can finish these off in one go here, or one ammo clip. Nope. Well, him. Not him, though. Gotta get that gas proc, otherwise it's not very effective. So, the weapon was confusing at first, and I built it several times, but I found that it's good against Corpus, and it's fine against Grineer, but it's great against Grineer if you can remove armor. But the thing is, a lot of weapons are pretty good. I even tested, I might do a video where I just kind of tongue-in-cheek compare this to the Flux Rifle, because, spoiler alert, the Flux Rifle does almost as good as this thing, or better sometimes, if the enemies have armor still. If you remove armor, this thing obliterates them so much faster than the Flux Rifle. But with armor on, the Flux Rifle does a little bit better because it's automatic, and it has a lot more status than this does. So yeah, it's a good weapon, don't get me wrong. It just wasn't what I expected. But it's worth picking up if you can get it and build it. It is pretty fun, and the fact that you don't need to use ammo is actually very helpful. So yeah, thanks for watching.